Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Michael White. Indiana University Assistant Vice President for Strategic Partnerships, Kirk White, said an increase in COVID-19 cases was detected through 20,000 COVID-19 mitigation tests conducted on IU students and staff. During the September 4th COVID-19 press conference meeting, White presented a concern for rising cases among congregate Greek living facilities.
And we understand that we're doing what we can to support them. But it's also important to note that we're working with their chapter leadership, their corporation boards that run these chapters that are responsible for their ownership and operation and insurance and things to that effect, and their national organizations. We feel like by helping them navigate this, that they can manage things better for a safer environment. Some of them, a lot of this all depends on the layout of the house, and some of them have facilities that can allow a much reduced number to still live there and quarantine safely.
White stated IU does not have authority to close Greek living facilities. Monroe County Health Administrator Penny Caudill said Greek house isolation would be safer than sending students home. Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton reported low virus prevalence rates from the City of Bloomington Utilities wastewater studies.
The areas of the city that are predominantly non-student housing, so those areas that are predominantly non-student housing, there is little to no virus being detected. Consistent with what you've heard from IU and what we see, the sites that do have detectable or significant levels are consistent with those IU findings centered around student housing facilities both on and off campus.
Caudill said a mass increase in testing could cause a lag in reported results. She reported 33 mandate compliance complaints last week and reminded local businesses to publicly post their reopening plans. Caudill said a COVID-19 vaccine is likely to come in 2021.
We don't have a lot of specific details about that vaccine at this time. I can tell you that it looks like it will take 2 doses, 3 to 4 weeks apart. There will be multiple manufacturers and people will need the same manufactured vaccine each time. And so that does add a level of complexity to getting that vaccine out. So we do continue to work on that. It looks like individuals under 18 and who are pregnant will not be in that first round of vaccine approval.
IU Health Program Director for Community Relations and Outreach, Shauna Gerges, stressed the importance of getting a flu vaccination to preserve healthcare resources.
IU Health has ordered an additional 25,000 vaccinations to better serve the community. And every IU Health facility and practice in the South Central region will have vaccines available in addition to 7 flu vaccine sites that are being set up across the region.
Gerges reported steady COVID-19 case numbers for the South Central region and said fewer cases are being seen than at the beginning of August. The founder of Carbon Neutral Indiana, Daniel Pointer, spoke to the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability during its September 8th meeting. Pointer referred to America's Pledge report when he listed 3 main ways to fight climate change.
And so every year he puts out this America's Pledge report, and it came out last fall at COP25. And in that report, he basically says, these are the 3 main things that we need to do. We need to do renewable energy. We need to electrify all the things, buildings and cars and so on. And then we need to invest in land use and natural climate solutions like forests.
Pointer said that all 50 states were grouped into 3 tiers, and Indiana was in the 3rd tier.
The leaders like California that chart the path for everyone, the followers like Minnesota that follow the leaders, and then the laggards, tier 3, of which the report expects nothing of us. And I said us because Indiana, according to their analysis, is in tier 3 laggard status. So they're just hoping we don't mess things up. They don't want us to get in the way, basically.
Pointer said that Indiana is one of 10 states that produce half of America's carbon emissions, and that Hoosiers must offset the social cost of carbon.
But basically, researchers at Stanford University wanted to know how bad is it to put carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We all know it's bad, but how bad is it? That's an economist's question. So their number was $220 of damages for every ton we put in the atmosphere, right? That's the problem. It's just an accounting problem. We're externalizing costs, internalize profits. So in theory, it should be simple. We internalize the costs. And that's what CCL and others advocate for, but we're not going to get that in Indiana anytime soon. So we can do that in a voluntary way. What does that mean? Well, you sit down with a household or a business and you calculate their footprint and you say, okay, Joe Schmo, your household emits 40 tons a year. According to Stanford, which is a pretty good bet, that's $220 of damages a ton, which puts you at about $8,000 of damages, right? You're putting that cost onto others in Bangladesh or wherever. And most people, if they trust you and they follow the math, they don't like that. They want to figure out a way to fix it, right? And that's where carbon offsets come in. Last fall, I thought they were just greenwashing. I didn't know anything about them. But when I ran out of my life savings, I thought, my God, who's going to pay for all these emissions reductions? I use ERI as a $50 million fund, but a lot of it is for adaptation, right? Some of it's for mitigation, measurement, and so on, but it's not about getting in front of the problem.
Pointer added, there are over 200 ways to create carbon offset, but that Indiana does not currently have any offset projects.
There's a small company in northern Indiana, maybe 50 or 100 employees. They already pay $60,000 a year for offsets from forests in California. And they told me that in the fall, when the contract is over, they would like that money to go to Indiana projects. Well, guess what? There are no Indiana projects. Not yet. No forest projects anyway. And there's another company that spends a similar amount of money up in northern Indiana on offsets. So right there's $100,000 a year that could be going to Indiana farmers or forest owners. So this is the tip of the iceberg of what we could do in Indiana when we take a voluntary approach to take responsibility for our carbon footprints, become carbon neutral.
The Bloomington City Council Administration Committee discussed fiscal impact statements during their September 8th meeting. Council Attorney Stephen Lucas said that fiscal impact statements are required to accompany any legislation greatly affecting city appropriations, fiscal liabilities, or revenues. Lucas said a provision was removed in 2013.
That provision essentially gave a council member or even council staff, I believe, the authority to delay legislation until a fiscal impact statement had been submitted.
According to Lucas, the removed provision allowed the council to request a fiscal impact statement upon a 2/3 majority vote. Councilmember Stephen Volan said the provision was removed over concerns of possible abuse.
I recall that that's exactly why it was taken out, is that a member was planning to use it as was using it as a threat to say, he didn't like legislation that was coming forward and found this obscure passage.
Lucas requested that the code be removed or better defined. He said that additional text could also specify when a fiscal impact statement might be implemented.
You'd want to specify when it is required and when it's not. And if you're going to state that it's to be made available upon request, that was the provision that was taken out. There was a provision that said that if a fiscal impact statement is not provided, then any council member or council staff can request a form, and then the council must vote by a 2/3 majority to either move forward with the form as submitted or postpone the legislation. So you'd want to be clear on when a form is required, when it's not, what happens when you request one and it's not provided.
The committee members agreed to rewrite and clarify the code. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
Do you know that thousands of children go without school supplies every day? Teachers Warehouse is a 100% volunteer-powered organization. We service the educational and creative needs of students in Monroe, Brown, Greene, Lawrence, and Owen counties by distributing school supplies free to the teachers. Teachers Warehouse is composed of 7 rooms filled with books, pencils, paper, and even tools to motivate students. If it's in a classroom, we'll supply it. To donate new or gently used school supplies or volunteer, give us a call at 812-929-7522 or email us at contact@teacherswarehouse.net.
And welcome back to CATSweek. The Monroe County Council discussed the 2021 jail and correctional center budget during their September 8th meeting. Jail Commander Sam Crow described additional funds needed in the jail's general fund.
The next line is 21060, training supplies. And that's a new line. That would help us assist with our training. You know, that's one thing that we found that there's some shortcomings in is our training. So we're asking for that line to be opened and some funding to be put in there to help train our staff. I think we have a pretty good trained staff, a well-trained staff, but I think there's always room for improvement.
Crow requested $22,000 additional dollars for training and travel and said that COVID-19 has interfered with planned training for officers.
We're finding, especially this year with the COVID-19, that all the trainings that we have been scheduled to go to have been canceled. So we're having to go to different types of training. We're doing some online training. We're doing some self-guided trainings, but all those are very expensive.
Crow said in order to expand mental health services, an increase in the medical services fund would be required for an additional job position. Councilmember Jeff McKim asked Crow about the additional support.
And so will this additional 20 hours, will that be more like licensed clinical social worker, or what kind of mental health support will that be?
Yes, that's what we're wanting, is another LCSW to come in and work an additional 20 hours. And we're looking at maybe something from 4 to 8 p.m., Monday through Friday, something like that. So we have a little better coverage for those after hours or so-called after hours. It seems like we're having a lot more people that have mental health issues, and especially severe mental health. And anytime we deal with someone that has the severe mental health issues, they take up a lot of time. So if we have another person here part-time, they might be able to help us with some of those special needs type people.
The council approved the proposed budget as amended. The final county budget hearing will be held in October. At the September 9th City Council Land Use Committee meeting, zoning planner Ryan Robling proposed an approximately 20-acre rezone from employment to residential estate at 2300 West Tap Road. Robling said a single-family home already exists on the property.
The EM district does not allow for the construction or expansion of single-family dwellings. The petitioner is therefore requesting to rezone this in order to expand the currently existing single-family structure.
Robling described the home as having 1830s construction and being surrounded by current and historic quarries. He mentioned a potential conflict between the requested rezone and setback standards.
The RE district has a minimum rear setback of 60 feet. The current structure is already set at the 60 feet line from the rear property line. So the proposed addition would encroach 35 feet into the rear building setback. So it would require a variance in order to be constructed if this petition were approved.
Robling noted that a variance would also be required to legalize existing accessory structures on the site. Property owner Duncan Campbell discussed the aging in place comprehensive plan policy.
We've been able to manage to raise kids here and have our family life here, but now we have one bathroom, which is upstairs where the bedrooms are. The basement entry was outside. And so for our own convenience, especially as we get older, we plan to enclose the basement entrance, put a second bathroom on the primary floor of the house, the first floor, and create another bedroom suite, if you will, to accommodate us if we get to wheelchair status, or basically we've created an accessible addition.
Council member Isabel Piedmont Smith asked Robling why a more dense zoning district would not be used for the property.
We need to allow more people to live in the city. It's a more sustainable way of developing to have denser population in the city, and the RE zone really seems more rural to me. But if you could describe why you settled on RE as the most appropriate, I would appreciate that.
Sure, of course. So there's a couple things at play here. The big one, as Mr. Campbell addressed, is the floodplain exists, and it covers a good chunk of that, which would make development hard. But then there's also other issues such as new single-family or residential properties need to front to a public right-of-way. The current property has about 190 feet of right-of-way along TAP. So to subdivide it into smaller residential districts, you would either need to be required to build a public right-of-way that can access through TAP, or it would only create roughly two or three more lots, depending on the zoning district you chose.
Robling said the residential estate rezone also provides historical protection. The committee unanimously voted in favor of a do-pass recommendation to the City Council. The Monroe County Council discussed the prosecutor's 2021 general fund budget during their September 9th meeting. County Prosecutor Eric Oliphant mentioned one major addition to the budget.
The most significant change, which we've brought up at the August council work session, is the request for an additional position, and that's a victim assistant. The Victim Assistance Program serves as the main point of contact with the prosecutor's office and the primary source of information for crime victims during the pendency of a case. If we can add a fourth victim assistant, we'll be able to provide more timely and thorough communications to victims, more opportunity for face-to-face interactions with victims that may drop by without an appointment, better service to victims of crime as a whole.
Oliphant said crime victims are empowered when they understand the justice system, and that Monroe County has seen a 34% increase in felonies over the past 4 years. According to Oliphant, the new position would be partially funded by a Victims of Crime Act grant.
Currently, the individual caseloads are unmanageably high. One victim assistant in our office has 803 cases. One has 541. And the third, who has the higher level cases, such as homicide, aggravated battery, and rapes, has 154 cases.
Oliphant requested approximately $42,000 additional dollars for a 3-year position. The council unanimously approved the prosecutor's general fund budget. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying. I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me. But with Girls Inc. in my corner, there for me every day, believing in me,
showing me what's possible,
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body, to say I can rather than I can't,
to say no with no apology,
to be a leader, to finish school,
to own my future,
to break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner, I will not be another statistic. I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
And welcome back to CATSweek. During the September 9th City Council special session, Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton presented an ordinance to modify the Monroe County local income tax rate.
I am here tonight to urge the City Council to support an economic development local income tax, or ED-LIT, increase of 0.25% to generate about $4 million per year to address these challenges and help our families move ahead.
He said a tax increase would provide ongoing recovery, and that approval of the new local income tax rate by November would implement the increase in January of next year.
We know the state legislature has indicated concern about even the current LIT approach. In the past legislative session earlier this year, after we began discussing the LIT, they changed the voting procedures in the legislature to limit the ability of cities with the majority of votes in their counties to enact a LIT. And this provision expires in May 2021, clearly indicating plans to adjust it again in the coming session. Some legislative proposals this past spring would have removed a city's ability to vote altogether. That is, it is not clear that the LIT Council and we will have authority effectively to enact this revenue after 10/31.
Hamilton said the state of Indiana requires county-wide income taxes, but that if the state allows, a city-only tax increase would be proposed.
We are following the LIT rules established by the state legislature. It is important to note that for many years, municipalities have sought permission from the state legislature to enact municipal LITs, our own LITs. I want to repeat that. We have tried for many years to be allowed to enact municipal income taxes. The legislature has always denied that local authority and required countywide taxes. We absolutely will seek again this coming year that city authority.
Hamilton noted that households earning $100,000 or more would create half of the total revenue collected. Councilmember Dave Rollo asked Hamilton how the city tax rate would compare to others after the increase.
If we had this rate increase of 0.25%, where would we fall in terms of the 20 largest cities in Indiana? Would we be mid-range?
Well, that we would move up a little in that. That was a list of LIT and property tax rates. We might, I think, maybe went from 16 out of 20 to 12 or 13 or something like that. In our 21 county region, looking at just the LIT, we would go from 19th out of 21 to 17th out of 21, though Owen County is proposing an increase which would take us back to 18th out of 21.
Bloomington resident Daniel Bingham said there would never be a great time to increase taxes.
When the 0.25% was first reopposed, my gut instinct was we should wait on this for at least another year because people are hurting and we should let them recover. The more I sat with that and thought about that and read about what is happening with climate, and the more I realized that this pandemic is climate collapse. This is part of it. We're already in it. The more I realized that there isn't going to be a better time. Things aren't going to get better. Yes, we will get a vaccine for this pandemic. Yes, we might start a recovery, economic recovery, but it won't last.
The City Council postponed the tax increase vote until their September 16th meeting. At the Monroe County Council budget hearing on September 10th, the Monroe County Commissioners proposed their 2021 general fund budget, including a salary raise. Commissioner Lee Jones described an increase in the commissioner's duties since being elected.
Much of what we do is the same as what the council does, but the order of magnitude is much, much higher. I do the kind of reading I've had to do has quadrupled, as have the meetings I attend. We all have to be on call pretty much 24/7 because anytime an emergency arises, it requires two of us to make any decision.
Jones mentioned that many appearances and speeches occur during the evening or weekends, and that the current salary and required hours limit the applicants willing to seek the job.
Most people have jobs that simply would not allow them the time or the flexibility to take this on. So they'd have to either quit their jobs or not even consider it. This kind of limits the pool of available candidates to those who are independently wealthy or retired, or maybe very occasionally someone who doesn't care about the salary, but is interested in the influence.
Commissioner Penny Githens said being a commissioner has never been a part-time job. County Council member Cheryl Munson said the commissioners should be properly compensated.
What that amount is hard for me to know because there are multiple variables. But I have reviewed commissioner salaries before. In fact, I took on a comparison before Commissioner Githens did several years back of salaries for a number of different counties. And Monroe County was not at the bottom, it was not at the top, it was in the middle. I don't want in the middle commissioners.
Council member Kate Wiltz thought the request was premature and said that results from a county salary study are not yet available.
We've asked many people in the county even to wait on increasing their staff salaries because of the study that we've asked for. So to me, this seems disingenuous, I think. The study was intended to really give us this information.
The County Council approved the $10,000 raise on a 5-2 vote, with council members Marty Hawk and Kate Wiltz voting against. And that's all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Michael White.